Tonight on Live from the Theater Basement, our correspondent talks with two Arizona playwrights. Why is playwriting important for the community? How's the pandemic impacted the writing process? And hey, more importantly than all that, how do you get a play produced? A conversation tonight with Arizona playwrights Will Cordero and Warren Doody. Tonight on Live from the Theater Basement.
Warner's Nursery is a family-owned and operated garden center in Flagstaff, Arizona, dedicated to providing premier quality plants at reasonable prices, excellent customer service, and expert gardening advice. Warner's Nursery, 1101 East Butler Avenue, is proud to support Theatrikos' reopening production of Native Gardens.
I'm your host, Chris Farrell. Tonight's correspondent, Gina Byers, and she's going to be talking with Arizona playwrights Will Cordero and Warren Doody. Tonight on Live from the Theater Basement.
Thanks, Chris, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me. Tonight I have two playwrights that are connected to Northern Arizona. We have Warren J. Doody and Will Cordero. Hello, gentlemen, and thanks for being here tonight.
Good to be here. Hi, Gina.
Thank you for asking me. Thank you for being here, Warren, and interviewing me, Gina.
So just a quick background on both of these people who are connected to Flagstaff. Warren J. Doody is a playwright whose slate of original works include Life Without Parole, Enlightenment.com, Angels in Disguise, and Development. His plays have had productions in New York, Los Angeles, and Canada, and across the United States. In his spare time, he is employed as professor of English at Vanguard University, and he also serves there as the English Department Chair and Associate Dean. Will Cordero lives in Flagstaff, and he is a faculty member in the honors program at Northern Arizona University. He co-edits the small press Eggtooth Editions, and he recently published a book of poetry called Trap Street with the Able News Press, and it was the winner of the 2019 Able News Book Prize, and he is currently co-authoring a book called Experimental Writing, A Writer's Guide and Anthology. He is also on the executive board of Northern Arizona Book Festival and a founding member of Brooklyn's Playwrights Collective. So again, welcome, gentlemen. And since we have a short amount of time, we're going to just jump right in. Warren, we're going to start with you, and I'm going to clump the first two questions together and say, how are you doing in almost 2 years of a global pandemic? And how do you feel that your work has helped you cope with and process all of this?
Well, I'm doing okay. I'm doing a lot better than I was doing last year, despite the rise in cases due to the Delta variant and soon to be Lambda variant and Mu variant and all the rest of it. But I certainly am doing much better right now than I was a year ago at this time. I think that my work has, not only my creative work, but my work through the university has really helped me process the time spent working my way through this pandemic. It kept me occupied, a lot of remote work. I learned a lot about teaching online. I learned a lot about technology that I didn't know prior, and in many ways I'll continue that work as I move into the future.
Great. Thank you so much. And Will, same question to you. How do you feel that your work as a playwright and writer has helped you cope with and work through all of this?
I would say that most days my writing keeps me busy and focused. Writing at least is something you can do in a pandemic, right? So it's my pandemic hobby. But also I'd say that because pieces, even short pieces, sometimes take many years to come to fruition, writing helps me see the long game and not get too caught up in the day to day. And I'd also say that many pieces take perspectives other than one's own or other my own. So it lets me see outside the edges of my own head a little bit. So in these ways, I think writing might help me filter out some of the noise from the news.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And so, Will, I'm actually going to start with you on this next question with that piece of how it helps you filter out some of the noise. How do you feel that this past couple of years are going to affect your writing in general? And then, how do you think it's going to affect the entire field of writing and creative writing and creative process of playwriting?
Oh boy, in so many ways. To give a little anecdote, I was in New York last week and I didn't even go to a single show. There were very few shows to pick from, obviously. And one of the shows I wanted to go see only was allowed to have an audience of 10, and I couldn't get tickets. Um, on the other hand, even as Warren was just mentioning, people are exploring technology and learning technology. So that's a different avenue that's opened up. I wonder if there's going to be a hunger for in-person performance again, or the shift to technology will be a longer-term, persistent phenomenon. And I also think the speed of the literary environment is changing, especially with social media and technology. I'm not on any social media myself, but everyone today is a public figure, since almost everyone is tweeting or broadcasting on some media. And let's be honest here, I'm doing that at this very moment on a podcast. So literature is sort of an activity that's changing. Medias, podcasts, websites, YouTube, TikTok, tweets, is becoming indistinguishable, perhaps, from some of these other media sometimes. And I think that's affecting the expectations that we have when we face more traditional forms of literature. So I wonder what paper books or in-person live drama is going to look like in coming years. You know, um, maybe drama is dead, but like punk rock, theater is always said to be dead. And so long live theater.
Sure. Thank you, Will. And Warren, how about you? Because I know so much of your work draws from everyday life and has some really larger than life characters. How do you feel this is going to impact your playwriting?
Well, one of the things that I do worry a little bit about, I think that, we're probably in this for another year. Certainly, I'm not a doctor, so I can't predict specifically, but um, I do worry. I do worry short term about the future of theater and in person performances. I thought it was very interesting what Will just said about being in New York and seeing very few shows, and the one show that he did reference only was allowing 10 people in the theater. I work primarily now in my creative life as a playwright, so it has been a little challenging to stay motivated to write plays over the last year and a half, not knowing what kind of venue or what kind of opportunities will be available. I do think that the few things that I have worked on, the pandemic certainly has influenced the content, and it's influenced the themes, and it's influenced what I choose to write about and focus on.
Right. So, Warren, with those pieces of it impacting you, how do you feel, or do you think that up and coming playwrights, do you think they should just, how do you think they should adjust and for being published?
Um, I'm not sure of the question.
I guess, do you feel that what aspects of theater do you think new playwrights should take into account as they write things? Should they take into account, okay, should they take into account more of, okay, a small intimate audience, or should we keep writing massive theatrical productions?
Well, I do think, and I think my previous answer might have been somewhat pessimistic, but I do think we're going to get beyond this, and I think theater will return, and I think larger audiences will return, and the reality is that once television and film really was introduced and picked up speed and continued to increase in volume, that people have been calling for the head of theater for decades. And, I don't anticipate that happening. I do think it's going to take some time, but I think for new and aspiring playwrights, yeah, perhaps the topic of the pandemic and some of the political divide that's come about it, and some of the political issues that it's revealed. Those are certainly topics that can be explored. But because I think that theater will eventually return, to its pre-pandemic state, my advice was to continue to write plays that speak to the writer, and that has an audience and characters and themes and storylines, etc., that they would have written before the pandemic. So I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth, but that's sort of how I feel.
Sure, sure. Thank you. And Will, one final question for you, and then we're close to the end of our time, so we'll do a little wrap up piece at the end here. So, Will, because I know that you just published a book of poetry. How do you feel that has impacted your playwriting?
I was thinking of the other question a little bit, if I can go the long way around
Okay,
the
go
long
ahead and answer
here.
that one. That's fine
Um,
too. That's fine.
yeah, I'll get kind of both of them. I think that, one thing I've been inspired by a sort of different tradition in theater that started with what was called the Little Theater movement. Um, and that was sort of a more intimate space than the Broadway productions. I mean, Eugene O'Neill was part of that Little Theater movement, so it's a big theater movement now. But I think that idea of a little theater movement and an intimate audience is not necessarily something to be afraid of. It can even be something to embrace. And certainly, if one writes in a media like poetry, the last poetry reading I did had a very intimate audience. I think having intimate audiences presents a very different opportunity, but one that's great, and you can be very willing to embrace it, and you can do different types of things, and even have different types of theater or poetry or other things in that type of space.
Great. Well, thank you both. And as I said, we're out of time. So I'm going to give you both 15 seconds to ish, to share if people want more information on where to find your works or contact you, how we can do that. And we'll start with
I'll jump. Yeah, I'll jump in first. I have a personal website that was built during the pandemic. So, even though I wasn't writing as much as I would have liked, I was still thinking in terms of marketing and thinking in terms of, the pandemic passing. So my website is www.warrendoody.com. Very easy to remember, very easy to find. And a shout out to Ben Wilson. I know he's not watching tonight because he doesn't even know I'm on here, but he's the one who built the website, and he just did some fantastic work.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you, Warren. Will?
If you just Google my name, you'll see a bunch of stuff come up on the internet, from various journals, fiction, poetry, some nonfiction. And then I also have that new book that just came out last month, Trap Street. If you find the book online, if you like that, you can always order or steal, borrow that book somewhere. That's Trap Street from Able Muse Press.
Fabulous. Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining me. Again, Warren Doody and Will Cordero. And I'm Gina Byers for Live from the Theater Basement. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Thank you, Gina.
Experience an elevated senior living lifestyle at The Bluffs in beautiful Flagstaff, Arizona. Imagine an intimate and authentic retirement lifestyle enhanced by custom-tailored 5-star quality service in an upscale community at the edge of a picturesque mountain. The Bluffs in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Our correspondent today, Gina Byers. Gina is the big wig out at Hullabaloo. I'm not sure what her real title is, but if you want a Hullabaloo, she's the one to talk with. Our guests today, playwrights Will Cordero and Warren Doody. Will, Warren, thank you both so much. Live from the Theater Basement, producer Linda Satara, engineers Sam Bradbury and Matt Brewer. Our technician tonight, Ava Haynes, and our associate producers, Virginia Brown. Joining us for the first time, Lawrence Desmond-Kennedy. Welcome, Lawrence, along with Joe Manigla and Michael Rulon. Correspondents, Mackenzie Chase, Jamie Asabi's, Lynn Timmons Edwards, and Sel Lawson. Our crew, Bailey Cunningham, Sam Dickman, Angela Keith, Malene LaBerge, Justin Moscow, and Christopher Celestua. Dramaturgy, Theatrikos Artistic Committee, Play Curation, Northern Arizona Playwriting Showcase, Executive Producer Chris Farrell. Live from the theater basement, streaming live on Sunday evenings at 7:30 p.m. and available wherever you get your podcast, is a production of Theatrikos Theatre Company in partnership with Northern Arizona Playwriting Showcase and Doody Films. Theatrikos Theatre Company, Flagstaff, Arizona, is the theater company of Northern Arizona and the Grand Canyon, embracing the spirit of Broadway with such shows as the anti-Shakespeare comedy I Hate Hamlet. If you love Hamlet, you can't come see it. But if you hate Hamlet, this is the show for you. It runs here in Flagstaff, October 1st through 17th. Tickets now available at theatrikos.com. Live from Theater Basement, the weekly podcast streaming show from Theatrikos Theatre Company alternates between 10-minute short plays and interviews with Arizona arts leaders like the one you just saw. If you, as a listener viewer, have input, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at theater@theatrikos.com. Live from the Theater Basement, streaming live on Sunday evenings at 7:30 p.m. and available wherever you get your podcast, is funded in part by Creative Flagstaff, formerly the Flagstaff Arts Council, and the Arizona Community Foundation. Additional funding from the Arizona Commission on the Arts, Flagstaff 365, BBB revenue of the City of Flagstaff, Cath Country Radio, and patrons of the arts like you. Thanks for joining us here on Live in the Theater Basement. This is Theatrikos. Coming up next week on Live from the Theater Basement, it's the 10-minute play, What They Call Evolution by Doug McLaughlin. An older dog and a puppy discuss life and eventually going to the farm, humorously and poignantly told from the dog's perspectives. What They Call Evolution, next Sunday, September 26th at 7:30 p.m. and wherever you get your podcasts.